by way of introductions, today, obviously, I'm Travis, for those of you who I think everybody's met so far. I'm the account manager and a whole bunch of other stuff that basically amounts to I handle the Maestro stuff around here. And we have got our lead developer, Ben Uzalak, who is kind of the brains behind all this Maestro stuff that gets built. And along the way, you'll hear from both of us today. So we're looking forward to spending some time with you and talking Maestro and getting into some other things like some volunteer recruitment, and hopefully at the end have some time for questions and answers. So we will dive in. Again, like to thank everybody. We are recording this, so if somebody in the organization is not able to be here, share this information with them. We certainly are going to be making this available. We'll get it out here in the next couple of days to everybody, but appreciate those of you who are able to join us live. So for those of you who are newer, you may not know how we do this town hall thing. Really, this started as a way for us to stay connected to our Maestro community. You know, when we were first starting a couple of years ago and it was a handful of communities, it was pretty easy to stay in touch with everybody and feel like you had a personal connection. And the more we've grown, the harder it is to maintain that personal connection because there's so many people on the Maestro system, which is fantastic. It couldn't be happier. But we don't want to lose that connection, and those conversations happen when you have those opportunities to talk to the community. So that's really what got these started. This is now our third one this quarter. We'll have another one coming up in November before all the holiday madness kicks in. And we're really just looking for opportunities to tell you what's going on with Maestro, hear from you how you're using it, and what we can do to help you along the way. And as we go, we're going to start doing some of these things today where we're talking about specific topics that are relevant, not necessarily just to Maestro, but to downtown and to Main Street as well. So it's an opportunity for us to, like I said, continue that connection. Certainly want you to feel comfortable calling us anytime, but this is a way for us to at least chat with a big group all at once outside of a conference. So just a few housekeeping things. If you're trying to talk right now, you'll realize that we cannot hear you. So just because we've done enough of these to know that inevitably somebody's phone's going to ring or a dog will come into your office or, you know, they'll test the signs or something. We just keep everybody's phone lines muted just to make sure that there's no background noise with recording this. That way everybody has a clean recording on the road. But we do want questions, so please do not hesitate. I've got my chat window open right now, so if you do have questions along the way, please do not hesitate to fill those in, and certainly we'll do everybody's mics when we get to the question and answer portion. But if you've got something along the way, maybe I'm talking too fast or not loud enough, or you just have questions about what we're talking about, make sure you use the chat window. We've talked about the recording already, and then just want to touch base up the survey. You'll get a survey later this afternoon, most likely, maybe tomorrow morning along with the recording. But we really encourage you to fill out the survey. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, and really, again, tell us what topics you'd like us to cover. Doesn't have to be things that we're expert in. Lord knows there's plenty of things I'm not an expert in. And we're happy to go find the expert in that field. We've actually got some things in the works for a few different topics, but if there's something that's of interest to you or something that you're struggling with, let us know in that survey so that hopefully we can do some ongoing training and bring in some experts to talk about some things, because we're all in this downtown thing together, and the more we learn together, the stronger we all get. So really hope that you guys will take some time and fill out that survey. It's really brief, but is really helpful for us. So today we're going to take a very quick look at Maestro. We're going to talk about what we've been working on internally and what's coming for Maestro. Again, we're going to talk about that volunteer recruitment aspect of things, and then we'll get wrapped with our live Q&A and answer any questions that you guys have, which is always a fun part for us. But to start, just kind of look back. It's almost, I believe, Maestro has been around for 3 years now. It's just flown by. We actually were, Ben, who you'll hear from in a minute, was programmed on the trade show floor in Milwaukee to finish up everything there in 2016, and it's just ballooned since then, and absolutely fantastic for us. Really, when we started, this was going to be a very integrated database that also had task management or the work plans. And it was really, really evident very quickly how much people kind of were clamoring more those early organizations. And so Maestro very rapidly evolved into the tool that it has become now, which is so much more than just a database or just a work plan, but reporting and all these other elements. And to build on that and continue to add things to our offerings. And we're really excited about what's coming that you'll hear from here in a minute. You know, just a couple of little things that really we're very proud of. One of them is our average uptime, and it's above 99%. As somebody who has been a Main Street director before, I understand how important it is for you guys in the field to have access to Maestro when you need it. And so that's something that we're really cognizant of, and we've made sure that, you know, we don't have to do a lot of scheduled maintenance and take the system down. And we do updates. We try to make sure that they're not at peak times where there might even be a little bit of an interruption. We've got an above 99% uptime, which is fantastic, because I know you guys are working sometimes at 2 in the morning and at 6 in the morning and at 11 at night, because that's the nature of the job. And so we have made every effort to make sure that we're available when you need the data. And then that last point there about us being committed to your success really is something that we're pretty proud of. Around here, Main Street and this downtown thing is a passion of ours. We are all very invested in our own downtown, where our office is and where some of us live, but we're really committed to this movement, and we want to be a tool, but we also want to bring in that knowledge and help organizations. So if there's something that you're needing help with, please do not hesitate to ask us. You'd be surprised at how well connected this Main Street group is, and how we might know somebody that can help with whatever it is that you've got. And a lot of those conversations have actually led to new developments in Maestro, new things along the way that we're getting into. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ben here and kind of let him talk about where we've come with the development and where we're going.
Hey everybody, Ben here. Just real quick about me. As Travis mentioned, I am the lead developer at Maestro. I'm heavily involved in our local downtown, and I sit on the board of directors. Live downtown, I shop downtown, I love downtown. So just wanted to give you that. So real quick, wanted to talk about what's new in Maestro so far this year. We did a push a couple months ago, and in the push we included a brand new interface for advanced student reporting. Those tools have just exploded and grown. It's been kind of crazy to watch how people are using them and requesting new features, and frankly, they outgrew the interface. So proud of brand interface and search and reporting that we're pretty proud of. Another thing that we introduced this year is updated imports, and the biggest improvement there is allowing you to import your involvement, which is probably one of the most requested features we've ever had for Maestro. Very proud of that as well. And some of this information is probably not new to you guys, because we see some familiar names here. But anyway, another feature that's new to Maestro so far in 2018 is the ability to distinguish between staff and volunteer. which is especially important when you go do your reporting. You can clearly determine staff hours versus volunteer hours our organization has had, and that's been awesome. Our downtown has actually used that a few times, and it's been quite successful for them. So anyway, we also added the ability to be notified when you get messages, which has been huge for some of our members. Also added the calendar widget and some more. So anyways, that's a rough overview of what we've done so far in 2018. However, we are very excited to announce that we've got something in the works. We are in the process of building a native app for Maestro. So there are two things that are important about this app. The first is we're porting Maestro to an app. It will be offline friendly, and it's going to be an amazing, simple, easy to use interface. That will be included at no additional cost to organization. So you'll be able to download the app, you'll be able to make all the updates you need, it will sync automatically. If you happen to be, in a spot you don't have good reception or anything like that, as soon as you get in it again, it'll push back to the server and everything will be all synced. So I'm super excited about that. The second feature of this app is a public-facing option, which it will be a paid add-on that we're going to be releasing. However, it will allow the general public to download the Maestro app, find your community, and they'll be able to view business listings, any events that are happening. In the future, we're planning on adding things like wayfinding, walking paths, tours, things like that. So that way, all of your members will be able to have a public app, and all of the residents, tourists, and all that will be able to download and use the Maestro app as well. So very excited about that. We are planning a 2018 launch for the app. So.
Really excited about that. Again, we know that you're on your phones, you're not taking your desktop with you when you're going into businesses and want to update that information. So we think this is going to provide a lot of opportunity for both the organization and the public as you start to promote your businesses and let people know just what is available in downtown. We've been asked about an ad a lot. We're really excited to have this in development and looking forward to pushing that out to everybody yet this year. And so we'll have a lot more information as we get closer. That is coming. Plan on probably pre-Christmas, because that 6 days of the year sometimes not the most productive, but we're definitely looking at getting that out yet this calendar year, so we're excited. And one thing from the previous page, if you have not played around with the importing involvements, really nice feature, and especially once I'm seeing so many people that are not new to Maestro. If you've got old lists, your sponsorship in 2013, or your membership list in 2015, get those in, making sure that you've got the email address so that everything kind of syncs up correctly. You can just import those involvements and add those without duplicating records and ensuring that you've got a full history of all of your stuff. A lot of our organizations kind of take what you've got the day you sign up for Maestro and you build from there. You don't have that historical information, especially if you've got an intern. That is a fantastic intern project. Those rainy days, sit and import a bunch of information, but it can be done really, really slick with these new importers, and it really can add to the value that you get out of Maestro. You can look at an organization or look at business or contact and get that complete history of everything that's done, from volunteering to sponsoring to even attending. So I would really encourage you to look at those lists that you've got to be on a file somewhere stocked away. And if you're looking for work for interns to do, it's a great one for them to kind of keep up and add to the value that you get with Maestro. So now that we're kind of done talking dev for the moment, I'm sure we will hear from Benny as we get into our questions and answers, because there's inevitably things that I don't know how to. We wanted to take this town hall and talk about topic or talk about issue. So one of the ones that has come up a couple of times this year has been volunteer recruitment. And so we really wanted to take a few minutes, kind of walk through some of the things that we've done successfully. Now, for those of you who know me as the Maestro guy, while I'm flattered, I had a lot of things that I was doing before Maestro. Most notably, I was the executive director for our district here in downtown Quincy. But even before then, I spent 8.5 years working for the Boy Scouts. And so volunteer recruitment between Main Street and the Boy Scouts was something that really had to become a focal point for my career, and something that you have to get good at, and something that you have to really pay attention to. And so I have started taking some of those tools that I learned with the Boy Scouts, refined for Main Street, and sharing. And so that's kind of what we're going to go through today, is just a few of those things that can make a very big difference. Because let's face it, we all need volunteers. You know, there is no organization, especially on Main Street or even downtown, that doesn't require volunteers. Even the most staff-driven organizations I've run across, some of those big, you know, downtown St. Louis or the downtown LAs that have a staff like an army, they still need volunteers, because we do so many events and we do so many things that bring people to our community that you just can't staff those events with just your paid staff. So at any level, you're going to need staff. It's just an inevitability. But all of the boards, the committees, what I call the worker bees, are the people that, you know, you can call at 3 in the afternoon who can drop what they're doing and help you stuff envelopes to be in the post office, and all of those types of volunteers. We've all got to have them. They really are. When I say the backbone, I think most here in the webinar today are staff, and I think everybody would probably agree with me that the volunteers really are the ones that make Main Street happen and make downtown successful. Staff, as evidenced by me, come and go, but the volunteers, the businesses, buildings, those are things that are there to stay. And so we need to make sure that we are good stewards of all of those things, but that means being good stewards of the volunteers too. And so we'll talk about some of how to recruit them, but how to be good stewards of volunteers as well. So the very first thing I tell people to do is start with job descriptions. And I always, when I'm presenting this, get fun looks from people, because nobody thinks about having a job description for a volunteer position. I can tell you from personal experience, it will make a world of difference if you start to develop job descriptions for your volunteer roles. It gives them a sense of security of what they're saying yes to. It eliminates that unknown and makes them more likely to sign on what you're doing. So you want to be very specific. This is what we want this role to be. You know, how long is the position? Is it an annual thing? Is it a 2-year thing? As an example, when you sign up for an officer in our Rotary Club here in Quincy, you're pretty much committing to about 6-year hit, because you work through all the different officers until you become president, and then you're immediate past president, and then you can finally take a break. But you need to know that going in. You need to tell what the expectation is. Even little things like, who do they report to? Is this a situation where they're going to the president of the problem? Do they come to the executive director? How often, you know, or who do they go to? And then how often are they meeting? You know, this is a short-term deal. You may be in for, you know, hey, we're going to meet weekly for a month, versus we're going to meet weekly for a year. It's a different commitment level. And so you want to put as much information about that as possible. Now, I will caveat all of this by saying this needs to start at a certain level in your organization. The person who shows up to man the ticket booth at the street fair probably doesn't need a job description. The person who's helping you with the cleanup day doesn't need a job description. I would say from personal experience, the lowest level you probably want to get down to is about that committee member level. And then, you've got your committee member, your committee chair, your board, your executive director, maybe some other positions here and there, but you do not need to make a job description for every single volunteer role that you have throughout the organization. It's, for one, just too many. You will also find that most of them will have most of a blank page because they're one-time little tasks. And so this is a combination that you need to have in your organization to figure out, what's the appropriate level to kind of drill down to. But don't go to the degree and get so specific that, you're providing a job description to somebody to man a gate and take tickets. You want to have a neat job description, something that you'd feel comfortable seeing the person in person with. And so that kind of gets us to the nominating committee. Now, this is one of the topics that I'm talking about because it can make such a difference for a downtown organization. And I've watched it happen. I've used this successfully, and especially with the Boy Scouts. This is kind of the method that they teach. It translates very, very well to the downtown world. So the nominating committee's job is to fill your volunteer vacancies. That's really their only role. So this is a very short-term commitment. They might meet for a couple of months, and you want people that are busy. We'll talk about some of that, but you want people that are there that can only do a short term. So this is great for people that say they're too busy or have their commitments going. They kind of feel like they're helping the organization, and maybe they kind of feel like they're sneaking a fast one by you because they're getting off the hook, so to speak, with a short-term commitment. But they can really have a huge lasting impact if done correctly. This is where, though, I think most people know about nominating committees. I'd say half or so of main streets that we encounter use them. The second point here is really where we start to differ. Most organizations use their executive committee or their board as the nominating committee. And I will tell you, that is going to get you more of the same. It's not going to grow your organization the way that you want it to grow. So you need to have people from various backgrounds, industries, social circles. If your nominating committee is made up of the same golfing foursome, they're going to know the same people. What you want is a varied background. So you want people that are in business. You want people that are in, business owners. You want people that are employees or VPs at banks. And you want all of these different things to come together. And then that other third point, or the big one, no more than current board member. And we'll talk about why here in a minute. It ensures they're bringing new life into the organization and getting people that aren't in that circle. And it also allows you to take the nominating committee and really evaluate health of your volunteer corps, if you will. So 5 to 7 people on a nominating committee, pretty good number. Any more than that, and it's too many, any fewer than 5, and you might not, be able to fill all these positions, or there's just too much overlap, especially in small communities. The smaller community, the more schools are overlap, and the tougher this stuff becomes because everybody's competing for the same, 7 people. So about 5 to 7. And then the first thing that you will do is review those job descriptions. Are these still accurate? These are the roles that we need to be filling. What are we doing with these positions? And then along with that, you actually want your nominating committee to kind of review the volunteers that you have. Most time we think of volunteers as employees, and we'll stick with a volunteer, a long time, or a lot longer, I should say, than we would with a failing staff person. A failing staff person, we're usually willing to cut bait eventually, especially in Main Street. We hold on to things. We like our preservation, but we will allow volunteers to stay in positions they're really struggling with a lot longer for fear of not having a volunteer, or for fear of hurting feelings, or in my case, fear of confrontation. But we got these volunteers here in sections where we're really struggling, and we'll talk about how to kind of shift people here in it, but we want that nominating committee to provide that impartial review and say, is Travis really the best person for this role? Probably more often than not, that answer is going to be yes. But if not, then we need to look at what a better role for Travis might be, because we want to make sure that the nominating committee's job, while it is their purpose to fill vacancies, it's really their job to make sure that the volunteer base for your organization is as strong as it possibly can be. So once they've reviewed everything, now we know what positions need to be filled. And this is where, for my money, the fun really starts, because now we start brainstorming. We say, okay, here's this role, here's what it entails. Who do we know that can be a good fit for this? And you'll have different people shouting names and arguing back and forth, and we'll talk in a minute about some of that. But we start to brainstorm all of these potential names, and we finally get to, we're going to ask Mike to do this, and Sue to do this, and Sally did that. And then the nominating committee tends to kind of disband at that point. But really, their work's only about half done, because that last point there, we need that nominating committee to assist in a volunteer recruitment effort. And this is probably another area that most Main Streets do not utilize their nominating committee well enough. If you've got Ben on the nominating committee, because Ben's really influential in the community and knows a ton of people, and we've recruited him because he's one of those guys that everybody owes a favor to Ben, and so we want him on the nominating committee. Best people. If somebody can't say no to somebody, if nobody in your town can say no to Sue, you want Sue on your nominating committee. But then not just to say, Sue said to talk to you, we need Sue to go help us talk to Travis and recruit him into the organization. Use those influences and use those favors to benefit your organization. We recruited these people for a reason. Now we need to kind of capitalize on that. Just getting the names is great, but we want this nominating committee to be more active and to actually help us fill these roles. And if we're going to go talk to Ben may not owe me anything. Ben may owe Sue 17 favors. And so when Sue asks, it's a lot harder for Ben to say no to Sue than it is for Ben to say no to me. And so that's what we're getting with nominating committee, is people that have influence that can help you fill these roles. So then we go to make the ask. Again, we want to make sure that the right person is making that ask. Who's everybody needing favors from? We want to take that job description with us. This is one of those in-person meetings. Over the phone, that's where you can get your ticket taker. For these committees, anything that you've got a job description, this is a formal, hey, let's have coffee and make an ask. And so when we give a job description, then these last 2 points. You want to talk about struggle Main Street people, these are the 2 points that will detail your whole process. In the room, you can't say no for them. We have a hard time finding volunteers. Every organization does. This is not a unique problem, I promise you. But a lot of times we talk people out of volunteering before we ever give them the chance to volunteer. We say, well, Ben's really busy. He just opened a new branch. They've got this, they've got that. And make excuses for why they're too busy to volunteer, instead of giving Ben the opportunity to say, you know what, yeah, I make time for that. So we can't say no for them. We have to at least make them say no to us. And then we need to make the ask. Be specific. We've given them the job description. We would like you to be on our executive board next year. You stop talking. And that, you want to derail a process, this is where Main Streeters are going to struggle. I can promise you this was the hardest part of any recruit effort for me, because obviously, if you're listening to this webinar, I have a hard time shutting up. But that's what's required. I will never forget my boss used to say to me, in a way that I've heard other times, but I always picture him when I hear the person who talks first loses. We don't want to be the person that loses. We do not want to talk first. So we've made the ask, and now we sit there. My record was about 2.5 minutes of silence, staring across the table at this gentleman that we were asking to be on our board. It was the most uncomfortable 2.5 minutes of my life. And it was all I could do to not open my mouth and say, but if you can't, again, saying no for that. That's what we normally do in these situations. We don't want to make people uncomfortable. We don't want to embrace the awkward, so to speak, and we give everybody out. Sit in the silence. They'll break before you will, hopefully. 2.5 minutes was a lot of awkward silence, I promise you. Paid off. He came on the board and did a fantastic job for us. But it's definitely an uncomfortable thing that you need to practice doing and getting in the habit of doing, because it is not easy. Main Streeters tend to be a lot alike in certain regards, and our talkativeness and our social butterflyness of those things, and that makes the step incredibly difficult. But when you do it right, it can be incredibly beneficial. So now we need to talk about putting volunteers in roles to be successful. We've all heard this. We've all joked about this inevitably, I'm sure, but one volunteer, one rule. We cannot stress this enough. Each person on your board or in your organization needs to be doing one job. Now, that's not to say that your board doesn't also sit on a committee, but they're in that committee role as a representative of the board. What we have a real tendency to do is we're really good at getting worker bees and kind of working them into committees. And then what happens is the committee people become committee chairs, and the committee chairs become board members, and the board members become board president, and they put on all these new hats, but they never take the old ones off. And so eventually, Sue works her way through the ranks, and she got 17 hats on, and she decides she's done, or she moves, or she's just, tenured out of the board, and now we have 17 different holes filled because we allowed Sue to take on all of those roles. So we need to make sure that we're limiting that as much as possible. Again, I realize every situation is different. Everybody is going to tell me, you're probably thinking to yourself right now, yeah, but he doesn't know my community. I promise, every community is virtually the same, and I know it's daunting, but trying to get down to the one volunteer, one role will really benefit your organization in the long run. You also want to make sure people are excited about their role. If I polled Main Street organizations today and asked how many of their treasurers were people in finance, I would imagine that the number is off the charts astounding, because we have a tendency to place people where our preconceived notions are. We want people to be, oh, you're a banker, you're the treasurer. Well, that's what Ben does for a living. Maybe Ben doesn't want to be the treasurer of the board and do that as his volunteer role. We need to, and again, this is where that nominating committee is so helpful, because hopefully these are people that your nominating committee knows well and knows that, while Mike's finance, really his passion is helping small businesses succeed. Maybe he's part of your economic vitality committee, or, maybe Sue's really excited about the retail in the district, and so we need her in a position to help promotion committee. Volunteering needs to kind of fuel your passion and come from your passion. And so just because your vocation may be one thing, you don't want to automatically slot people into their volunteer role because of that. And so we need to be very cognizant of that when we're doing this. And then evaluate those positions regularly. Again, this is that, hey, you might not be doing the best job. I will tell you, every time I have mustered the courage to have the conversation that I didn't want to have, it ended much better than I thought. Usually the volunteer knows that they are struggling. They know that they're not attending meetings. They know that they haven't been able to fulfill what they promised. and they feel worse about it than anybody else does. All of the talking we might do that Travis hasn't shown up to a meeting in 3 months, Travis knows, and he's embarrassed, and that's leading to more not showing up. But when you have the conversation, if you go into it, hey, look, doesn't seem to be a fit for you, more often than not, I have left those conversations with a volunteer thanking me. We're giving them the out. We're letting them off the hook at that point, or just shifting them to a different hook. Sometimes it's Mike Finance and made Mike the treasurer, and Mike hates it. He wants to do something else, so we give him the opportunity, and they're going to thrive and succeed. Now, occasionally, you will find that volunteers might be a little stubborn, and just like the rest of us, and they might not want to leave their role. But you know that it's best for the organization if they do. Maybe they're stuck in neutral and we're not going in new directions, or maybe we're just, it's time to let somebody else take the reins. Most organizations have the bylaws to fall back on. Hey, I'm sorry, you're 10 years up and there's nothing I can do. We're going to have you sit out for at least a year before we can bring you back. And you kind of make big bad bylaws the scapegoat here. If you don't have that, one of the things we joke about very fondly in our district board is sometimes you need to give somebody what we call the Boy Scout Award, where you made an award for them just so that you can kind of show them the door with them riding out on their white horse. And as ridiculous as it might sound, it can be a very effective tool. You need to get somebody to kind of enter the next phase of their volunteering. So creating a Founders Award or a Pillar Award or whatever, and making them inaugural recipients, and it just lets them feel better about leaving the organization appreciated. And a lot of times that's what it really boils down to, making them feel appreciated. And that's really where we go to avoiding the burnout. Again, and we have people that have been volunteering for a long time. It's easy to get, burnt out, so to speak. We avoid that in a couple of things. First off, one volunteer, one role. Again, I know it on the previous slide, stress it for a reason. The more you can have them do one thing, the easier it is to keep them long term. What we have to avoid is making sure that the volunteers keep adding hats without taking any off. We've got to thank them. Obviously, when we see them, we thank them, but find those creative ways to show your appreciation. Everything from pancake breakfasts, I've seen cocktail hours, little things, especially if they're not the president or CEO of their company, sending a message to their boss to say, you know what, Ben really helped us. We can't thank him enough. We know this is, what he does in his free time, but it really makes an impact for us. Those things can go a long way to make that volunteer feel appreciated. And again, the more active your volunteers are, making sure that you're thanking their significant others as well. We know that when volunteers are with us, they're getting time somewhere else, whether that's at work, whether that's at home, whether that's, out at the sports bar watching the game. They're giving up something to volunteer for us, and we need to be aware of that. We need to make sure that we're thanking them in as many different ways as possible, because that really will lead to a lot of success and a lot less volunteer burnout. The last thing before we open it up for questions, we'll say when it comes to volunteers, there are two things that I strongly suggest. Every Main Street, every downtown, every whatever, 2 volunteer roles for every big event that you do. So whether it's your annual meeting, whether it's your street festival, your concert, your this, that, or the other, there are 2 volunteer roles that I think are of the absolute utmost importance. First is a dedicated photographer. Now, this doesn't have to be a professional photographer with a camera to go around and take all these great pictures. It can be somebody with a phone. Phones are taking ridiculously high quality images now. we can get some really nice images. But more often than not, the executive director or the core committee is running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and afterwards you go, boy, that was a real success. Oh shoot, we didn't take any pictures. Well, let's grab stock images and we'll just tell people it was great. A volunteer photographer is a really easy thing to recruit because all you're asking them to do is show up and take pictures. And especially the more talented photographers, you know, when they start getting close-up images of people smiling or carrying shopping bags or any other stuff, it gives so much material to not just tell people about how successful this year's event was, but those really come in those annual events when I can use last year's pictures to promote this year's event. And oh, look at that, that's a smiling Ben's family, and don't they look lovely? You know, people that we know, and it's not those stock images, but if we don't cognizantly think of having those volunteers do those pictures or take those pictures, it's really tough sometimes. So we want to make sure we've got it covered. The other one, and the reason I bring this up, is somebody that's sole job is to look for volunteers. Find those people that are really engaged, that are having a blast, that have maybe hung there all day or come back every day of a weekend and notice them and say, you know, we'd love to have you on a committee, or would you mind helping do this, that, or the other next year? The small jobs that you can come into are great. You know, we often think that their entry into the organization needs to be at a committee level or needs to be at this, that, or the other. Sometimes it's just noticing who's there and saying, hey, would you mind helping next year, you know, set up for the event, or would you mind helping, you know, tear down? Little things like that build engagement and lead to better committee members and eventually board members and all of that kind of stuff down the road. So having somebody there with a stack of business cards for the organization to just say, you know what, we'd love to have you. Would you consider helping us out? Call this number on Monday. Or, hey, I get your name and number or email, follow up with you, maybe help out. You'd be shocked at how much somebody that just, they flattered. People want to be included. They want to be a part of successful things. And I know there's so many successful events downtown. And so having somebody walk around and ask them to be a part of the cool kid group really goes a long way. So making sure that you got those mechanisms in place is really, really important. So with that, I am going to unmute everybody's mic, maybe, and ask if anybody has got any questions on this, over Maestro, something else downtown we haven't covered at all. If you got stage fright, you can use your chat box as well. Anybody? No hands? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Again, I want to ask everybody to, if you haven't, fill that survey that you're going to get, but hopefully, and I have been looking at the names, I think most everybody has filled out our data survey. One of the things that help us as we move forward with our development of Maestro and with some things that we're looking at is knowing what data is important to you. And so we put together about a 10 or 15 minute survey, just kind of having you tell us what data is important. We had a deadline of next Monday. I realize it's Labor Day, but when we get to the office on Tuesday, we're going to take everybody that has filled out that survey for us, and somebody's going to win a $100 Visa gift card. So it might as well be you. If you need the link, email me, call me. We'd be happy to provide that for you. We would love to give that away to somebody, and we're going to next week, so we're excited about that. Again, tell people about Maestro. If you've got communities that are near you, if you're going to your event this fall at your state program, obviously we can't get around to every single state conference as we'd love to. And so if Maestro's been beneficial to you, it's up. We know that I think Heidi's on here from Saco. God love Robert up there in Saco. I think he told everybody in his community about Maestro at this point. But that really does help, and it kind of just assures them that it's not us trying to sell them something as a vendor. I've been in that job. I understand how many vendors call you on a daily basis. And so it really helps, and the more people we have, the more we're able to do. And so kind of some self help as well in that. And obviously we've got a referral program. Anybody that you're referring to Maestro, you both win. They're going to get $25 Visa gift card. You're going to get a $25 gift card. So make sure you're telling your colleagues about us and getting them to sign up for Maestro. Again, if anybody has any questions, needs anything, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Heidi is very sweet. But we love hearing from our users. We love helping our users. If there's something that you're struggling with, you've got data that you don't know what to do with, you don't know how to get it in, or you've got a downtown issue. I'll be honest, I love those calls when, even if it's not an answer that I can provide, when I can direct people to somebody that I'm aware of that might be able to help a community with an issue online. They're fantastic. We want to be able to be a resource for any and all things downtown. So please do not hesitate to ask us at any time. Again, we're going to make the recording available later this week. We'll make sure that out to everybody, but we'll on the line here a few minutes. I'm going to stop the recording here in just a second. If anybody's got any more questions, Ben, do you have anything that I missed or?
No, I don't think so. I really hit the nail on the head, Travis.
Again, thank you guys for joining us. If you've got any questions and just want us to, we're happy to do that. But at this point, we'll kind of stop the initial meeting. And like I said, we'll be happy to stick around and answer any questions anybody may have, whether it's off the webinar or what have you. So thanks for attending. And as always, thank you for being a part of the Maestro community.